no clue. Was looking at her, and I think to myself, sorry, I couldn't see jack shit. What's up, internet? This is Hyro, making yet another video on the shadow functions. This will be the end of the structure types. I'm going to be talking about the ENFJ and the shadow functions. Let's jump right into it. So the ENFJ has an INFP shadow. So they have FI Nemesis, NE Critic. We talked about that with the ENTJ. SI Trickster, and TE Demon. So basically, just a rundown of what that means for the ENFJ is that they, FI Nemesis basically makes them walk around believing that they're bad people. Kind of similar to what an INFJ does and what an ENTJ does. But with FI Nemesis, they worry a lot about coming off moral or immoral. They worry about that. They basically just, well, like I said, they basically walk around believing they're bad people. Any critic criticizes other people for their desires on what they want. It's also the function that just assumes things without asking questions. Assumes everyone has it out for them, in a similar light to the ENTJ. An SI Trickster has like no clue of its own bodily comfort. They don't really care much about it either, but they don't really care about their own comfort a lot of times, and makes them really unaware of their past actions. And you see that a lot with ENFJs because Templars are Templars are hypocrites, and basically what'll happen is that they'll end up criticizing these people, because that's what Templars do the most. They criticize people, and they'll criticize the actions of some person in their life, which and whether or not they have a business of doing that is solely dependent on if they did those actions in the past. Because oftentimes, well, not oftentimes, but sometimes what'll happen is that they'll end up criticizing people on what they're doing when they literally did the exact same thing like 2 days ago. INFJs do something similar, but we'll get there when we get there. And TE Demon doesn't care what other people think. Does not care about its own status. Doesn't care in that regard. So, which is kind of interesting, because they have that INFP shadow, and they care a lot about getting certified to do things, which is like a TE thing. So it's like, if you really don't care that much, then why do you care about getting all these certifications from people more qualified than you? It doesn't make a ton of sense, but that's something that they do. Oh, well, okay. Basically, what'll happen is that they'll see themselves, they'll be like, well, I'm more qualified than you, so I don't have to care what you think. And it's like, it just comes off really hoity-toity, and that they don't care what people think in that regard. So let's talk about the axis with FI Nemesis in TE Demon. So they worry about how they feel. They don't care what people think. And I think that's makes sense why they don't care what people think. Because it's like, well, if you worry so much about how other people feel that it makes you worry about how you feel, and you're so insecure about what you think that it makes you not give a shit about what other people think, it makes sense. Especially with FI Nemesis and TE Demon. Because it's like, it worries a lot about its own morale. So it's not going to really listen to other people's opinions that much because of that reason. Like, it tries to weigh out the bad opinions, but it kind of doesn't work because that TE is so low. So they just end up not caring what people think. And it's like, well, you wouldn't have to walk around believing you were a bad person if you actually cared for once about what people think. You wouldn't have to worry that much because, I mean, ENFJs aren't really bad people. I mean, I don't see them as bad people. A lot of them aren't. I mean, that's partly because they're so worried about morals that they don't even really come off as a bad person. Yet they're so worried. Yet they're not gonna care what other people think and actually take in that stimulus. And they're not gonna take in that stimulus and not. I'm just saying, if they cared a little more about what people think, they probably wouldn't have to worry so much about about coming off like a bad person. Because I just told you right now, I don't think ENFJs are bad people. Some of them are, not all of them though. But so then the next axis that I want to talk about a little bit is the any critic SI trickster. I talked about this in the ENTJ video as well, but this is just going to be another overview to stay consistent with the videos. I don't want to cut corners here and just tell you to go back to the last video, because that would kind of defeat the purpose. But basically what'll happen is that they'll basically criticize people on what they want, which causes them to just assume the intentions of others. They'll assume the intentions of others, and they think they can assume the intentions of others because of SI Trickster, because they think they're so good at SI. They think they're so good at SI that they can just predict when people are going to screw them over. Sometimes they can, but that's not... 9 times out of 10, that's not the case. But what'll happen is that they'll just assume someone has it out for them because of an SI memory that they have, even though their memory is like complete dog shit most times. And they'll what'll happen is what's that Templar thing? Templars Templars can hold grudges, and it kind of comes off in that way. But what'll happen? There's a fine line between forgive and forget for ENFJs, because a lot of times they will forgive people, but what'll happen is if they think that this person is about to screw you over because, you know, they're being inconsistent or something, some bullshit like that. With SE Child, they recognize when someone is being inconsistent like no other, but that's besides the point. What'll happen is that, oh, this person is being inconsistent. So are they gonna screw me over soon? Well, I want to jump on this opportunity before they do. So they end up screwing over someone else before they get the chance to. It's like, and then it's a lot of times, or not a lot of times, but it's for some dumb reason, like they just looked at them wrong, when in reality the person in question probably just had a bad day and wasn't in the mood for some of the ENFJ's TE demon bullshit. But what'll happen is that they'll jump on the opportunity to just cut this person off before they even get a chance to do what they think they're gonna do. So you actually don't know what their intentions are because you didn't let them do it. But I understand that you're very critical in that regard. But they're probably not gonna screw you over in the first place. And it's like, if you actually understood, if you actually tried to develop SI instead of just assuming that you're amazing at it already, you'd actually learn that most of those people aren't actually going to screw you over. And it's kind of funny, but it just is what it is. Every Templar does it, but I think it's especially funny with the ENFJs because they have that any critic, SI trickster axis. But I don't know, it's just funny. So the next thing I want to talk about is the cognitive looping that happens within the ENFJ type. So the optimistic functions loop, and I think the pessimistic functions can loop too. So what'll happen, this is very similar to what the ESTP does, because they have the same optimistic and same pessimistic functions. But ENFJs will loop FE and SE. So they're really all about like trying to make people feel better and trying to give them a good experience. All about that life. They're basically, but the difference is that they ignore what they want in a similar way to what the ENTJ does. They ignore what they actually want, in favor of just trying to give people emotional comfort and physical comfort. And and it makes it come off like you don't really know how you feel, and that you don't care about your own emotional comfort. And that's pretty true when they're actually in that FESE loop, because I mean, it's logical. If you care so much about how other people feel, then why you're not going to care as much about how you feel. That's logical. Like that's something that like every FE user does pretty much. They don't give a living shit what they feel most times. ENFJs can kind of care. It can come off like they care, but I'm not saying I don't care about being a good person, but I'm just very critical of myself in that way. But those optimistic functions loop in that way. and the pessimistic functions loop. So basically what will happen is that they'll go to the subconscious and start looping TI and NI. They'll basically be in like this pseudo TI NI loop, and they'll ignore they'll not care what kind of experience they're giving people. So basically what will happen is be like, well, I'm going to care about what I want. I'm going to care what I think only. I'm going to care. I'm only going to give a shit about that. And I'm going to assume you have it out for me. And I'm going to try and make you, and it's and I'm not going to care what you think in the process. And, that ends up screwing over their reputation with people. And, it ends up making people not want to be around them. So, no one wants to be loyal to you, SE child, if you're gonna start assuming that everyone has it out for you, and that you don't actually know about your past experience to really judge, to really predict the actions of others. So what business do you have criticizing them in that regard? Because it doesn't help you. It just makes people not want to be loyal to you. And that's the one thing about every Templar, really. Every SE user. I'll even say that. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. A priority for SE users oftentimes is loyalty. Like even the lowest SE user, ENFJ or INTJ, they need absolute loyalty. So the problem with that axis is that it creates it just makes people not want to be loyal to you. I'm saying this to help you, ENFJs, because if you get out of that any critic vice early, you won't have to deal with that later with trying to figure out why people aren't being loyal to you. Well, that's it for the video. I'm at school. Bye.